Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Monday night, 8 p.m. can only mean one thing. The Online Darts Live Lounge returns for episode 211. I know, startling that we are still here after all this time. Myself, Phil Bars, and Dan Simpson here for the next couple of hours to talk you through everything that's happening in the darting world. How we doing, buddy? You all right?
I'm on top of the world, mate. I'm in a good place. Now, other than, like we were just chatting before, other than the fact that I've been stuck in horrific traffic today, I've been to Manchester and back for work, and it's been a busy old day. But I had an unbelievable weekend in Manchester and we'll come to this because we talk a lot about live venues in this country being used for darts. I was in the Co-op Arena in Manchester watching Stevie Wonder, and it was an absolutely amazing trip. Me and Mrs. S made the trip down. We were incredibly well looked after. We had VIP tickets, and that arena, certainly if you access it in that way, is on another scale to everywhere else in the country. I'm also going to see Stevie Wonder this weekend as well. So I had that one. We were in Manchester last weekend. I'm in Hyde Park this week. We're on the cusp of the greatest tournament in darts. We've got loads of darts stuff to talk about. The chat room's full. It's a bloody good time to be talking about darts on a Monday, isn't it?
It is a bloody good time as well. Also in the chat room, Dell, K-Days, how we doing? Maliki, of course, is in Gazzy suitcase for the trophies. We'll talk about him, don't worry. James, how we doing? Nicholas, good to have you in. Adam, how we all doing? I hope you're good, mate. Owen, Daniel, Paul, how we doing? Marcus, Warren, Bill, Wayne, Chris is in as always. How we doing? Paul, Matthew, Mark, how you doing? Max.
We've got the Bible in here.
Yeah, the latest suspect. Rob says evening all. Dan says good evening. Lendl is in. Oh, I tell you what, it is. It is rammed. James says, I've loved the interview with Chris Mace. Mace is always incredible to interview. Never holds back. He tells it how he sees it, which is what you want. Good to have all you guys in. We have just shared some links on social, so if you see them, make sure you give them a like and share as well. And of course, make sure you drop a like on the stream here as well. Just a couple of bits that confirmed today that is penciled in. We have got our first guest coming live to the studio next week for a bit of a chuck and a chat.
Ooh.
The African Warrior, Devon Peterson, will be in the OD studio on the 17th of this month.
He's taking a break from being in the chat room or pretending to be in the chat room, and he's going to be there in person, isn't he?
He is. The African Warrior will be in this studio.
Which will teach you some dance moves, Phil, while he's down there. You know, sure he can give you a brush up on a bit of that.
So looking forward to that. Also, had a good chat with the PDPA coming up. They're going to try and do something with us, which will be quite nice if it gets off the ground.
That'd be incredible.
Which will be quite cool. I had a really good chat. It was good. It was constructive. So fingers crossed that'll come off, which will be good for everyone, to be fair. So.
I think sometimes our point of view gets misunderstood or taken out of context a little bit. And it's often that, like, what the angle that we come from is often just one of desperately wanting things to be better because we love darts and sort of all of them. And, you know, not everybody agrees with the right way forward. But if you get enough people wanting things to move forward, then, you know, every now and again you might get somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. Is Double Trouble going to continue? Yes, it will. Next episode is scheduled to be recorded the Friday before the match play. Both myself and Mace in Blackpool. So it will be film, edit out that night. Fingers crossed.
So you can have me with a beer behind the camera that day.
So yes, Adam. Okay, look, right, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's get it out of the way. Because I know a lot of people are asking. Look, I'm not going to go into Gob's situation. That's down to him to say whenever he feels comfortable and ready. we've had a discussion. He's not ready yet. That's just a him thing. But don't be surprised if you see that third box with him in it sooner rather than later, shall we say? Like I say, not just yet, but we've had a conversation, shall we say?
I was going to say, and we I don't think it's just we don't only speak to each other and the other guys as well. We don't only speak once a week on a Monday. We are in touch. There are days when I speak to the online darts guys more than I speak to my wife and kids. Like we're in touch a lot. So it's there are always ongoing discussions being had, not just about God, but about lots of other ways in which we can move the channel forwards and things that we can do and extra things that we can bring for people. So yeah, it's always under review.
Well, funny you should say that. Literally 20 minutes before we come on air, Gob's chucking ideas into the WhatsApp chat.
Yeah, into the chat,
which look decent. So yeah, look, even though he's not on here, he's never stopped contributing behind the scenes or anything like that. So look, that's the elephant in the room. Look, if I was a betting man, I'd say sooner rather than later, but no precise date as of yet, shall we say? Right, let's go into the darting landscape. The final World Series of this little block is in the ledger. Again, Poland delivered. The arena was incredible. Obviously, I know you were at Stevie Wonder, but you missed the Bray Wyatt Fireflies. We had an arena full of Fireflies at one point.
Yes, they do a good job, over in Poland at enjoying the darts and getting up for it, don't they? And again, I think it's probably because there isn't a huge, there's not a huge amount of competition with that one event. If you're into darts and that's where you live, that's your annual opportunity to go and participate and feel like you've been to a big event and see the big boys. And I think in a lot of ways that, yes, the stadium looked, or the arena looked really good. The fans looked smashing, but I think it really delivered in terms of the quality of darts that were there. I think whilst we've seen we didn't see a lot of the home nation qualifiers coming through that first round, just the one victory. However, there wasn't a big disparity in level, and there was some really watchable games in there, and nobody really disgraced themselves. It was a good standard.
No, look, it was, and we'll touch more on where Poland goes after we talk about the thing. But again, almost a bit like the Dutch one. Don't get me wrong, Poland is still an emerging nation. I'm not saying it's exactly like the Netherlands, but we've seen Titus Kanik play on tour. Ratajski has won titles. Sadansky is on tour. Sedlacek on tour. Białecki on tour. We've seen Jahertsky on the Euro tour. Kachuk's played on tour. Lubitsch is on tour. There is a lot of tour experience, shall we say, within those host nations. Yes, look, they're not as far developed as the Dutch guys, so to speak, but there is still a lot of talent that we've already seen in that lineup.
Yeah, and you do think it's going to continue to grow, because we do see every year, we go back through the Q School process and we pick up an extra couple of tour card holders, and it's not the same players constantly roving, dropping off and coming back on and dropping. We do get to see new names. It's probably slightly not concerning, but what we're not seeing as much, I don't think, is a swell of younger players coming through. That's, I think, maybe the difference between where we get the some of the guys definitely coming through in Holland, because there's so many of them. But some of the ages of the guys that are coming on and off tour tend to be. I know Seb Białecki is an outlier among them, but they tend to be more mature in age, into their 30s, 40s. A little bit of that is that to play darts, and we've discussed it a lot. We'll probably come around to it a little bit. And I know there was one of the videos you dropped with Mace. intimated it as a lot as well is the the money that's involved being an international player to come and play on tour is difficult, and that's perhaps why from the Eastern European scene we tend to get those more mature people into their 40s who are probably a bit more financially stable, who are able to make that commitment, rather than young players who really just need to get a roof over their head, and they might have young families, and the risk is a bit higher.
100%. We'll come on to there's a point that's been dragged up again, which we'll come on to after we've done this bit here. But even before a dart was thrown in this World Series event, Gezi had an absolute nightmare. His flight was cancelled. His luggage was lost. He wasn't there for the meet and greet because his flight was cancelled. Yet he was at the airport, I think it was 6:30 in the morning, on his Instagram story. He got there, no darts, no shirt, literally nothing.
No trousers, no shoes.
Trousers. He goes shopping, and look, in that opening game against Białecki, without looking at the stats off the top of my head, I think he had darts to win 9 out of the 10 legs played. There was opportunities there. In round 1, it was not vintage Gerwyn Price. However, that changes. I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know if he got his case back and then went back to his usual darts, because he likes a worn set of darts. He doesn't like one straight out of the box.
Yeah, a pack straight out of the box isn't for him. There are other players. Rob Cross,
some don't.
Yeah, Rob Cross springs to mind as a player who I know is happy, with a fresh pack out the box, and he can hit with his darts, of course. But he can open them and start playing with them, and that's fine. But yeah, others, Gezi being one of them, they like a set to be worn in and fell in, and with a bit of wear on them.
Yeah, how are we doing, Fraser? Good to have you in, buddy. And look, then after that, we'll touch on him more there. But looking at the others, there was some really good stuff. I'm still scratching my head how Johnny Clayton lost at 3-all. He possibly should have been 5-1 up, and then a little spurt from Ratajski takes the game away from him. But again, good signs from the Ferret ahead of Blackpool, which is obviously good for him. He's defending final money. We'll obviously touch on that a bit later.
I'm only being defended at this match play. It's lovely. Let's be honest. It's nice to have things to talk about. But yeah, we are finding ourselves getting dragged into the defending of money and potentially big shuffles in the. I'm not saying it. The order of merit. Like I'm not.
We'll come on to that later on as well.
No one's paying me to get up a fucking ladder.
Teresa, I don't know. I haven't seen if he did or not, but I'll try and confirm one way or the other. Then we have obviously had MVG's interesting comments about his opponent. Where do I stand on them? Look, he's got a point. It could have been phrased better, but is Perlo Ljubic, in my opinion, one of the best 128 players in the world? Absolutely not.
No.
Again, that's one of those product or byproducts of the system.
What you get with Q School, isn't it?
Correct. Look, is he one of the best 128 players? For me, absolutely not.
No, but he's had a decent week, and correct. There's currently, that's how you get your tour card. There are other ways to get your tour card as well. That's not the only one. But yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes I have a lot of patience when we are unpicking the phrases used by people for which English is their their second language. I'm not sure I have the same patience with Michael, just because I know his English is so good. Like, it's not, we know he's not just picking English up. Like, this is a guy who speaks English better than most of the English-speaking players on tour. Let's be honest, we've interviewed half of them. Like, some of them are challenged on the language front. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be quite so forgiving in that sense, but I've got no real issue with it, because it's difficult to make a real argument against it, isn't it? And you couldn't say he's full of shit. You couldn't say do I also think that Michael is working himself a little bit because he needs a bit of something extra and he's needling himself as much as everybody else, perhaps? Like, it's big time in his life at the moment, in his darting career. Like, he's gone through a bit of a tough spell in a number of different ways. He's looking at a bit of he's looking for a resurgence. I'm still not accepting that we've seen it yet. So yeah, I don't know how much of that is him trying to psychologically get himself where he needs to be.
Well, the other bit as well is we can't have it both ways. We've said that players have been too nice for too long. So, then when one of them actually comes out and has a right pop, I'm all for it.
This is it.
Regardless, it might be disrespectful, Chris, but in brutally honest, I couldn't give a fuck. I'd rather have them having a go at each other than being nice.
Yeah, and this, let's be honest, it's a thing, and in darts, we're very quick to come out, and especially at the minute when everybody's hyper focused on. Let's be honest, one player in particular, but a few at the very top of the game, where anything that they say and do is making it through to the shit rags as well as an actual story. But, in football, if we have if you get a manager interviewed and he says something, he has a dig at another manager, he says something personal, like, everyone's like celebrating, that's brilliant. Like, yeah, that's what we want to see. We want to see someone going out and have, so like, when it comes to that, you can't just be precious about it. Yeah, you can't just be precious about it because, again, this is what we live for, in it. Sometimes is that, and like I say, it doesn't just mean that Michael's got a particular problem with a person, but I do think a little bit of it is him just gearing himself up to where he needs to psychologically be. Sometimes an angry Michael is a far more dangerous Michael, and you see people artificially build that, and good sportsmen, they can get themselves in a place. They don't need help from anybody else. And I don't know whether he's just working himself where he needs to be before he goes to Blackpool.
I want to talk about your boy from the Northeast, where Chris Dobie was sensational in round one. That just 100 average doesn't do justice how good he was. But then he goes and plays in round two. Yes, Gerwin Price played very, very well. But Dobie's doubling was about as good as a dog and duck against the King's Head. This is the problems that we've had from Chris Dobie, where the highs are high, but the fall off is dramatic as well. Needs to find something in the middle.
Yeah, and to a degree, you could accept a 2, 3, 4 point dip in the score, in the scoring phase of the game, in order for just those extra doubles here and there, just that level of clinicalness. I mean, to a degree, it makes him very watchable because you don't know what's happening next. Like, he keeps you. You couldn't say that he doesn't keep you on the edge of your seat, and it provides very, very entertaining games of darts. But yeah, it's. I spent quite a long time this year, the first third of the year, probably insisting that I wasn't worried about Chris Dobie, especially when we saw the semi-finals of the he started the year with the semi-finals at the Worlds, and then the Premier League phase was difficult. I think that I'm still a bit the win, the Pro Tour win that we saw the other week from him. It wasn't enough to really reassure me. Blackpool's going to be so important for the rest of his season. I think it's so important that and again, I don't think it's about winning games. I think it's about being able to just remind himself that he can take those doubles out under pressure and to stop it being a thing. Stop it being a thing that people talk about, that he knows. Like, he's aware when he's on a stage that he's got problems with doubles under pressure, and he just needs to try and shake that off.
Well, again, 2 from 11 was the Achilles heel. He's had multiple opportunities
to win the match.
It fine, but the doubling phase again lets him down on a big stage.
Yeah, he could have won that match. It was a winnable game. He could have, and it's a couple of little micro adjustments, and he could have won that game. And then again, you don't know what confidence he then takes from being able to hit those doubles. And I think it's a broad spring. If he hits those doubles, his confidence is through the roof. If he dicks around on those doubles and goes out of the tournament because of it, yes, you can argue about the importance of the tournament. But these players want to win every time they're on a stage, right? Regardless of the prize money and regardless of what shape the trophy is at the end, whether it's a palm tree or something else. Like, these players want to win every single time they're on a stage.
Yeah, fully agree. The Luke Littler action was spoken about a lot over the weekend, where on game one, we saw a very distinct pause in the action for 2/3. Then he went back to the fluent one. Then on the Friday, and then on the Saturday, we had a complete mixture of fluent, pause, and so on. Look, I know he's done it in the past. I know he does it. But chopping and changing your action and making these changes, I'm not sure it's a good thing.
I sort of agree and disagree, because I think because of the age that he is and the natural talent that he has, he doesn't have a particularly manufactured throw. It's very, very natural. And everything he does is quite natural when he's got a dart in his hand. And as he grows and matures, his throw and his action will change. There's no question of that at all. Every player that's been around and played for long enough that it happens to them. I think you could question timing, because there are times in the calendar when it might be really good, or it might be a better time to start tinkering around with your action. I don't know whether the first week of July is the right time for any one of 32 players to start tinkering around with things, because I think we're very, very close onto something. However, who am I to tell Luke Littler how that dart feels in his hand and how he should be letting go at it? There's obviously something that he feels is either missing or something that he can get better. And like I said, that first game against Nathan Aspinall was, apologies. The first game against Karel Sedlacek was fairly routine in terms of, levels where he produced. And then he's obviously looking for something. He's found something against the Asp because he's played superb. But it's the timing that I'm not sure about, because I think when you get to Blackpool, you need to be 100% settled on what you are about to do and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, what you're going to throw and how you're going to throw it. But the overarching sort of asterisk or exclaimer at the end of all of that is, like, in the last few years, there is a player who has thrown every single rule book in the bin about what you should do and how you should do it and what time you should do it and how long you should do it for and when you should practice and what type of practice you should do and what type of equipment you should throw and when you should change it and it's him. And so then I just think, well, there's a little bit of me that gets a bit excited and thinks, well, if he's found something, or if he thinks something's in there where he can tweak something a bit, my God, what could we be about to see? Like, what could, if he's got an extra 3% somewhere in that throw, then what have we got potentially in store for us? My concern is if it comes from a place where he's not satisfied with what he's getting. Not that he thinks there's a bit extra in it, but if he's not satisfied with it, because we've seen so many players do it and it drags them the other way. And then they struggle to get it back because it becomes too manufactured. It'd be interesting to hear what his take on it is. If he's going to speak on it or not, it'd be interesting.
It's interesting. I watch a lot, and he's just done a podcast with Angry Ginge, and I can't remember who the other guy is, and they ask him about stuff. And I'm paraphrasing here, but his phrasing was, "I sometimes do think how good I could be if I could be bothered to practice."
Yep.
Which I thought was an interesting one.
Yeah, and it'd be a nice project, wouldn't it, to be able to almost I don't know, send him to some sort of camp. Like we need the darting, we need the darting equivalent of St. George's Park, yeah, and just to like have an entire team around him just to see what can be achieved in that. What can somebody do if everything is applied into the absolute maximum and we drag everything out of them? But then you might lose what makes him special. You know, if you do that, you might take away what makes him special.
Yeah, look, Mavericks in sport aren't built the same as everyone else. Whether that's darts, football, rugby, tennis, whatever, they are wired differently.
Diego Maradona wasn't doing the same as everybody else was every day, was it? Like he was living a very different lifestyle to the rest of them.
100%.
But there was nobody close to him every time he walked onto a pitch, and yeah, that is what you see when you get Mavericks. Not even just in sport, but in life. You know, in any highly successful business people and various other people that are very successful in their fields. Then yeah, it's. They're always a little bit different in the way that they approach things, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he's capable of, that kid, if he really went for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not, Warren, but we get where you're going with this one. Good evening, Bob. Hope you are good. The other interesting, we'll come back to Luke in a minute. Well, actually, we'll do it now before we go on. Now, I don't think we're going to see Luke play competitively between now and the match play. He's not in the Pro Tour, and based on his thing of I'm not going to Germany, he's not in the Euro Tour because it's in Kiel. This isn't just Luke. This is a one in general terms here. Is it a good thing or a bad thing that he's not going to play competitively between now and the match play? And in general, is that a good thing for players or not when there's 3 tournaments, ranking tournaments that you could get some practice in and you're choosing not to? And obviously he's not the only one as well. There's other people missing the Pro Tour and so on.
I think it's case by case. I think it makes bugger all difference to him. I think it makes no difference whatsoever to Luke Humphries as well. I think it would make very, very little difference to maybe 5 or 6 other players. I think there's some players that need it because of where their form is and what they need going into the match play. I think there's others that maybe don't. Gezi Price probably doesn't need to throw a dart between now and Blackpool because he's probably walked off that stage thinking that's where I need to be, and maybe doesn't need anything between now and then to convince him otherwise.
I think he plays though. I think he plays. Because
the risk is he plays and has a stinker, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he loses that momentum that he's got. I think, Paul's mentioned something there, and I tend to agree in that regardless of what effect it has, like that decision will be judged on how successful he is or isn't at the match play. And in the same as the various different decisions that were made in the run-up to the World Cup, regardless of the reason why the Germans played better than the English team, people will point to various different things and say, that's why that had an effect, whether they did or they didn't. That's the interesting thing. I personally don't think it makes a great deal of difference if he plays those events or not, which version of him shows up at Blackpool. I think there's other factors that aren't whether or not he's played those Pro Tours or the Euro Tour or not. But I think that's the same for other players as well. But I think there's some players that really need that time.
Yeah, no, I don't think
it's a one fits all answer, I'm afraid. But I think there are some players that will massively benefit from going there. And if you see somebody, someone that's been out of a bit of form, somebody like a Chris Dobey, for example, I'll pull us back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. If Chris Dobey, I know he's recently won a Pro Tour, if he can go and win another Pro Tour and double really well, or go and do really well on the Euro Tour, that might be exactly what he needs going to the match play, is just to reassure himself that can take those doubles out, and he can do it on a stage. He can do it when there's a big crowd there, and just that extra bit of confidence. There's other players I think that are just constantly fighting for form and fighting with themselves and their own bodies and their own throw. The likes of Michael van Gerwen and Nathan Aspinall, who I think both just benefit from every single opportunity they get to play competitive darts at the minute, because they're looking for something. They're trying to find, whether it's just comfortableness or whether it's something in the throw. I think it's a bit different for everybody, really.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree. Right, going back to the event in Poland, but the fight, look, from day 2, Gerwin Price has averaged 104.5, 100.5, and in the final 103. And that last leg, I'm going to use an Eddie Hearn phrase that has done the memes galore. What a set of bollocks that man has. When Stephen Bunting hits, I think it was 136 or 137 to leave tops, and you've got 91 and your first dart misses the treble, to go double 17 tops to win a title is a serious set of stones. And Gerwin Price winning a TV event on the build-up to the match play is great for darts, is bad for everyone else.
Correct. Yeah, that's like it's in the circumstances in which he did it as well, because he's multiple different ways, in all the ways that you can overcome various different types of adversity in doing it, and reassured himself that he can just keep bashing people aside and winning games and get his hands on a trophy. I think he is supremely dangerous at the minute. We saw it through the Premier League. We saw him winning matches that he shouldn't have won. We saw him working his way through to a finals night when people didn't think he should be at the event to begin with, 16 weeks before that. Very, very dangerous, especially because, and we're going to do loads of talking about the match player, there is a lot of players in that list of people who are qualified who are not in any form and who are trying to gain some form. And if they come up against him, then they're going to struggle, because he's properly at it at the minute, and he's getting into the habit of winning darts matches, even the ones he shouldn't be winning.
100%. And look, he's defending a lot of money this year. We know that, but now all of a sudden he has clicked into gear. At the moment, he's world number 11 on the older tour card race that I know there's a lot of money to play for. He drops to 21. Now, if he stays there, look, I don't think he will. I think he wins at least one TV title this year. Gerwin Price at 21 as outside the top 16 is the worst for the players in the top 16, because then he becomes the one that you don't want all of a sudden, a bit like it was last year.
Gary Anderson kept being
correct
with those draws, yeah.
But I just get the sense that Gezi believes it himself as well. Something is building again for Gerwin Price. That belief all of a sudden is back. We saw him at his brilliant best destroy people, winning the World Championship. His Grand Slam record was unbelievable. It took an inspired Johnny Clayton to stop him at the World Grand Prix. I feel he's not a million miles away from those levels once again.
No, I think he picks some. I'd be fairly confident saying that he picks up something this year. I think he picks a pot up this year, because I think he's got, at the minute, it's not the right phrase, but it's like if it was a different sport, you'd say he's just got that turn of pace that a lot of players seem to be lacking at the minute, is that all of a sudden he can elevate his game and find 5, 6, 7 legs that didn't just seem to come from nowhere, and he can just find something. And the only other players in the world at the minute that seem to be able to have that turn of pace is the two Lukes. And they're not always at it.
3 in the world at the moment. Forget world rankings.
Yes.
Just watch him with your own eyes. Luke and Gezi are by far the best 3 players in the world right now. For me, Nathan and Stephen Bunting just underneath those 2. I think, but I think the 3 are clear of everyone else.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw him get his hands on a pot this year. You know, he hasn't had the best front end of the season at all. You know, you look at the year-to-date money, and it's not where I thought it would have been for Gezi. But I just think there's something in that game. I just think he's dangerous.
Well, you touched on those afterburners. He went in at 3-3 with Rob Cross at the break in the semi-final, come back after it and won 4 in the blink of an eye.
That is what
that highlights that situation.
Yeah, and I think the only 2 other players in the world that have got that to that level at the minute are the 2 Lukes. But he does just seem to be able to get his foot down, and all of a sudden turn it on. And I think, you know, there's not a lot of players at the moment with the form that they're currently on that will be able to keep pace with that if he turns it on, which is why I just think there are going to be too many opportunities from this year to get his hands on a pot. The draws will fall nicely for him at some point, and he'll get something.
Let's stay in Poland. Obviously, we've spoken a lot about the crowds in New York and so on, and what's next for there. I think there's a question to be had here as well, because that's now 3 years in a row that the World Series has more than delivered from a crowd point of view. I think there was over 10,000 in there on the Saturday night for the final session. Would Poland now be better off hosting perhaps a European tour rather than a World Series or so on? Or is this still the right course of action for these Poland fans? Because it's certainly an that we can't ignore anymore because of what's going on there.
I think that it needs a Euro Tour. They need a Euro Tour event. We've got 7 events in Germany. Like, just realistically, why? Like, we've got 7 events, 7 Euro Tour events in Germany. Why do we need 7 events in Germany? Because we've also got the World Cup in Germany. And also, if you are in Germany and you are a fan of darts, like if you are in most of Germany, then you can actually get to other things as well relatively easily. Like, depending on where you are, you can get to Switzerland. There's another one there. You can certainly get to Austria, and there's another thing there. You can get over to Holland, and you can jump on a train and do that, and you can come home the same day. Like, so if you are in Germany, you've got an awful lot of opportunities. We know that the market is there because they've proven it time and time again with the World Series events. Like I said, I just think there's so many opportunities in Germany with those 7 events. And then, 7 in Germany, 2 in Belgium, 1 in Austria, 1 in Holland, 1 in Switzerland. Like, one of those German 7 can surely go to Poland. Surely.
Yeah, I would say so. Marcus, I get the point about having both, but usually it is one or the other. They don't normally put both in. So although I don't dislike it, I think it would be one or the other. Now, if you are constantly selling out arenas like you are, certainly there, would they risk a Euro Tour when the World Series has been such a success?
I think you have both. Dutch too.
I get that, and I get the point. The Dutch have both, but I don't class that Dutch one as a World Series. It's only because Toto paid a fortune that they've got one.
Well, I know, but what is the World Series really, Phil? Like what is it? It's a series of international exhibitions, isn't it? Like, if we're honest, it's. So I think keep it, because if I have far less a problem with it than I do the Dutch one, like we were referring to earlier, and we were talking about the development of players and the young players coming through to be tour card holders in that region. Like, we do not need to grow awareness for the sport of darts in that country. I do think that there is still work to be done in Eastern Europe. In terms of developing the layers of that, and the youth systems and the academies and those younger players coming through. Yeah, we've got one, but that's about it. But there's more work to be done. And for a little bit, I feel like, those events, holding those events in a country, your Euro Tour is, you give people in that region opportunities to go and see darts, and for the PDC to sell a load of tickets, I think you can make a perfectly reasonable argument to do both. It's perfectly fine.
Not just that, do we think we're getting close to perhaps a potential Premier League night in Poland in the next 4 years or so?
The problem you got with that is a lot of these Premier League nights that sell out regardless. They could put me and you on the stage and they're still selling out, right? And they're going to sell out all over Great Britain. And they're going to sell out if they stick one in Europe, like one additional one in Europe is what I mean, which is what we know we're going to see. So we're going to see a Belgian night. Now we're going to have to lose a night in England to have the Belgian one. So I don't then know what the net gain is for the PDC to run a Premier League night in Poland when you could, I think, easily. Do I think, well, you take one of the German ones away, you upset some of the German fans, but they could go to another event, and you give an event to Poland where you want to grow the game. If you then start to take another night away from Great Britain, what you're taking there is a lot of people's traditional annual, what it's become a traditional annual trip to the darts. They go every year to this arena with this group of people, and they go, and you're already taking one away. You take another one away. It's not just losing. You're losing an arena off the cycle that we see all the time. But to the people that go there every year, that's sort of their annual trip out to the darts, and that is quite important to them. So you can turn off 20,000 people by taking away another UK event, unless, of course, the event you're talking about is to strip it from the MEN, in which case I'd say go ahead. I'd host it in a field rather than go back to that arena.
Harsh that.
They'd get their money's worth, to be fair, because we'd be there all night. They'd be still there at 3 o'clock in the morning, going for double one.
Double one? I wouldn't get down that low. Yeah, look, it's an interesting dynamic as this world domination and global success is being hunted down, that at some point more and more stuff is going to leave the UK. It's a nice problem. It's a nice problem to have. It's a nice problem to have for the PDC, but it is impossible to please everybody, because you simply cannot. You can't have your elite players in places at once, and you can't start to run sub competitions whether or not. And let me go totally outside this is left field, right? You going rogue?
I'm going really rogue here. There has been, and I'm not a fan of it, by the way. I'm just throwing out a scenario in which it could work. We have seen discussion, and we've heard lots of people talk over the years about, let's use the football analogy of having the Premier League and the Championship, and having a second division, so to speak, of the Premier League. If, and I mean 5 to 10 years' time, as darts keeps developing, growing, getting bigger, you then embark upon something like that, where you have a two-tiered Premier League event. You've got this elite A League and the B League. They'd come up with better leagues names than that. But yeah, so you've got the A League and the B League. What that does do is it opens up some more opportunities to have different venues and to use, because also what you can then do is you can look at your arenas that you know you're going to sell out no matter what, and you can put your B League on there. And you can look at arenas where you're not sure you might sell it out, and you can put your A League on there. Again, I'm not a big fan of that, but we've heard it discussed before. It's been thrown up in the chat room a little bit that maybe one day we will see 2 leagues of the Premier League, and that format will expand in a way that we can't really imagine at the moment. So that would give you an extra way to keep some people happy and to bring darts to some new arenas and areas.
Or do we go the American route where we have games sporadically around the world like they do in the NFL? Where there's a game in Madrid, there's a game in London.
I mean, my travel agent would be over the moon with that. And again, we've got players that piss and moan about having to get a ferry. So if you start, all of a sudden darting events around all over the place, I think the risk is that you piss off. What you've got to do, again, because it's a very fine balance between keeping the TV companies happy, between keeping the audience happy, both at home and in the arena, the ticket buying audience, but you also have to keep your elite players happy. Your players who haven't got a pot to piss in, who like, they'll turn up and play your events. They'll find, but if you want to sell the big tickets and fill the big arenas, like, you're going to have to keep your top players happy because you need them to want to come and play these events. We've had quite recently on this very channel some of the biggest names in the sport, one of the biggest names in the sport, declared themselves unavailable for future Premier League activity. You don't want more of that if you're you don't want to turn off top players from playing. So it's a really fine balance between managing all of that and at the same time, we've also heard from Mace as well that it's not perhaps a particularly happy camp always in that top elite list of players. So I think you've got to find a real balance on keeping those players happy but meeting the needs of the wider fan base and the casual fan base if you want to grow the game as much as you can possibly do it. But then I look at other sports who don't give a shit if people can go and watch them or not because they just know that their tickets are sold in one place. Like, football is a prime example. Like, I've been on the waiting list for a season ticket at Newcastle for God knows how long. I don't know if I'll ever get one. They don't care if I get one. They don't care about keeping me happy. They hope I buy tickets. They hope I buy new shirts every season for the lads and everything else. They don't care because as long as the tickets that they've got available to sell are sold, that's fine. And where I think, and we talked about it in recent weeks, where I think we're moving, and it was a big takeaway from my visit to the Co-op Arena at the weekend, is I think the future of people making money at these events is not making sure these events are full, because they always are. But what you need to work out how to do is to sell as many of those tickets in that arena, and instead of selling them for 50 quid a pop, you can sell them for 200 quid a pop. And maybe that's because the seat's padded, or maybe because, like me at the weekend, they got to sit next to Ian Brown from Stone Roses, or maybe you do something like that. And that's what you need to do to start, I think, making more revenue from these events that are going to sell out, but you want to earn more money. So do you want to go to more countries and travel everywhere and piss off your top, or do you just create a full new series of tiers of premium experience, and that's where your revenue comes from?
Padded seat brigade.
Man, I don't sit on a fucking plastic chair anymore.
Mace is in the chat room. Mace, always a pleasure to have you in, buddy. Matthew says, can you realistically see a major going abroad? And if so, which one? Can I realistically see one going abroad in the next 5 years? Absolutely. Which one? I think it would be a choice of 3. I think potentially the Winmore World Masters, because that arena isn't particularly big at MK.
No.
And it sells out.
Nobody enjoys going there.
It sells out very, very quickly. So I could see, I think the Masters is one that potentially could move abroad. And the other ones, the World Grand Prix or the Grand Slam, are the two that not both, but one of. They're the three that, if I was looking at it, I could make a case for going abroad.
Yeah, it doesn't count because it's already abroad, but I'd move it into some new territory. Like I'll continue to bang the drum for the World Cup to go to Madison Square Garden because it makes absolutely perfect sense. Beyond that, I'm not sure.
Or we could, like Johnny said there, we could do like a Welsh Open in Weston-super-Mare. We could have the UK Open in Rotterdam.
Yeah, to be fair, we don't need 2 events in the Midlands, but I would just drag one of them further north of England. Correct. We don't need 2 in the Midlands, nor do we need one in Milton Keynes, nor do we need one. We could do with them a little bit further up here. That would be delightful.
Oh, I love that. But for me, Milton Keynes is the one pod because, again, it is a small arena. It sells out rapidly. So,
but that's fine. Like that's a fine idea. I think also, and it's the sort of the romantic in me. I think that like you want to be able to host some of these events. So, like Mace mentioned there about putting the Grand Prix in a different country every year, but which is a brilliant. I love that idea, and I love the idea of people, darts fans, first of all in that region, being able to go and access darts because that's a great opportunity. But also people who are into darts and like to travel to somewhere interesting. Like we host all sorts of darts events in some quite nice and interesting places, and it's quite nice to travel to, and you get to go and have a look around and see what's there. Like it's hard to get excited about a trip to Milton Keynes, isn't it? Like what do I do for the daytime? Do I go and have a look around the cathedral? Do I go, no, it's fucking Milton Keynes. There's nothing to do there. There's a Nando's, I think. I don't even know if that's still open. But yeah, like it's, I'd like to see darts in more nice, cool, interesting venues. And some of them aren't sexy enough, are they? These places. Like, well, not like Blackpool. That's proper sexy.
Said no one.
we'll be in 2 weeks' time.
No one has ever said that about Blackpool in their life.
It will. In 2 weeks' time, it'll be the sexiest town in Britain as the darts fans of the UK descend upon it. Okay, hell. Every pub in the town looking like the bar from Star Wars.
Yeah, and the World. I know everyone wants to see the World Grand Prix go back to Ireland, and we all would, but
you ain't seeing that, I'm afraid.
It's dead in the water at the moment. Just
that
lack
building,
lack of venues is the issue, especially now the Irish government have bought the City West. So it's just a non-starter.
Yep. I'm afraid that one's gone. I'm afraid you can file that with the UK Open in Bolton and everything else that you like to look back upon.
Never ever file the UK Open in Bolton. Still hold out hope that one day we get.
I've got some files. Do I need to dig it back out or something? It's hidden away for.
It can be left on the shelf, just not filed.
Right? I'll keep it on the shelf, just ready, just in case. Don't you start talking about abandoning Minehead, my God. No. Not yet. Anyway, I've already paid for next year.
I've got an idea about that. Well, I'll talk to you about that afterwards.
About what?
Well, if you're in Minehead on the Monday, surely it makes sense to drop by the studio.
Oh, I think we'll do it. Yes, we'll definitely. Post UK Open. Yeah, because I'm on it. Yeah, if I'm in Minehead, I can call to Andover on the way. Yes. Yes, we can do that, Philip. We'll plan that in.
Right. All eyes are now on Blackpool. The Winter Gardens is in full swing. There are 2 opportunities left for players to get there. Only 2. Now, anyone would think I was busy yesterday and did some prep. Laugh as you will. However, this is the current standings. Look at that beauty.
Oh, well done. Someone's been working hard. This is what happens. I go away for the weekend, and you're actually doing grown-ups work, can't you?
Yeah, I was actually busy. That's how we look ahead of tomorrow and Wednesday's Pro Tour action. Now, there are some questions around positions and whether you want to be. So, starting with the seeds. If you're Josh Rock,
I wouldn't be going.
Do you want to be in 16th?
If I'm Josh Rock, I'm not going. I've got a tummy problem tomorrow. Oh, I've got a dicky belly tomorrow. I'm not taking the piss. If I'm Josh Rock, I'm not even going.
The other one,
watch the stream.
Gerwyn Price, as it stands, if he stays in 12th, he then has a potential round 2 clash with Johnny Clayton. Where if he was in 11th, it's a potential clash in round 2 against Chris Dobie, and so on. Now, it's almost plotting your routes to the final. And I know people say you shouldn't do it, but let's be fair, you all do. You look at what seeds are in your group and so on.
Yeah.
So there are a couple there, a bit like we said about Gary Anderson when he was in that 15th, 16th. Did he want Littler and Humphreys? He had a little spurt and got himself out of there. So there is interesting scenarios there.
Yeah, I think realistically,
I'm going to bring this back on. I can put this back up in a minute.
I think you take what you get, but I think that Josh Rock could regret doing all right at a Pro Tour this week, potentially. And I would take my chances if I was him. You might get a worse draw, you might get the same draw, but if I was him, I'd take my chances and get my feet up.
Well, the other thing as well you could look at is the longer or the further you go in the tournament, the longer the format goes up. Now, would you fancy beating Littler or Humphreys in round 1 or round 2 where the format goes up? Or so on. So even if you did get them, have you got a better chance of beating them early?
Correct. I think you definitely got a better chance of beating anybody early because, it's like all types of darts. The shorter format you put it over, the less games you have to win to get through, the more chance you have at a rogue result. The more chance you have of also the more chance you have of getting battered 7-0. But I think you can create a more chaotic environment and you can get ahead quick. If you can pinch an early break and get ahead, then you give yourself the best chance. There's always potential for bigger upsets the shorter the format. When you get that longer format that's played over an extended amount of legs, which is what we work up to in the match play, then often the cream rises to the top. And the better players will just find their way to work their way into a groove.
Now, on the other hand, let's just put it back up for you. The Pro Tour Order of Merit side. We look at that line. Below it, I've put the 4 in there. Michael Smith, Christoph Ratajski, Richie Edhouse, and Neil Zonneveld. Will any of those catch Ryan Joyce, Raymond van Barneveld, or Luke Woodhouse?
We've been looking at those 3 or 4 players at the bottom of that Pro Tour Order of Merit for a long time now. And they've not changed. And I've said all along that they won't. And I remain convinced that you've wasted 4 boxes there that could have just been left blank. Because I am still of a mind that there is so little to be picked up in the early rounds of these Pro Tours that you've got to get so deep to make a big difference. And you've also got to rely on those players above you getting knout as well. I just think they've left. I think it's too little, too late is what we're going to see. Could Michael Smith turn up and win one? Yeah, absolutely, he could. Do I think that he will? Absolutely not. Like, I just don't think. I don't think his game's there at the moment. We've not seen him in the 19 events that we've seen so far this year. He's not made it to a final. And that doesn't encourage me going into it. Now, let's be honest. The reason he's ranked where he is for that very reason. Like, if he had done better in those 19 events, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He'd be a little bit higher up the rankings. But I just think there's not enough money to be earned at this stage to make a big difference. I just don't think, what have they got to, nothing in the first round, grand in the second round if you come through it.
Yeah.
£1,000. Like, so you've got, they're going to have to go, and then it goes up, last 32, £1,500, last 16, £2,500. A last 16 don't get you there. 2 last 16s don't get you there. And everybody else is picking up money as well. I think it's too little, too late.
Evening, Matador. Hope you are good. Someone asked, if Danny Noppert drops out of the top 16 seeds, he is or qualified on the other side. So don't worry about that.
Yes.
Now, as I say, you like to manifest chaos.
Complete chaos is what I want to see. Yes.
Now, tomorrow, around 12 o'clock, when they press draw on Dart Connect, what happens if Raymond van Barneveld gets Michael Smith and Christoph Ratajski gets Ryan Joyce in round 1 and the 2 underdogs win? Then it's game on.
It is. It is. And it would be if I had the confidence in those players coming through a board final at the minute. And I just don't know that I do. I just don't. I
saw signs from Ratajski at the weekend. I think his game's in a good place. Yes, he has a lot of work to do. Not arguing that. Michael Smith, we don't really know where his game is. Every time he's had an opportunity, he's let it slip.
No, and Christoph Ratajski, unlike Michael Smith, won an event 4 events ago. 4 events ago, he won a Pro Tour event.
Correct.
But then that is a bit of a one-off anomaly for him this year. And if he hadn't won that without that one event win, he's a country mile away from this. Miles away.
You take 15 grand off of that, he's down in 25th with Gabriel Clemens.
Yeah, he's not even being remotely discussed. So yeah, can you base it on, he's had one good day, but yeah, there's a couple of players up there that have had one good day. I can't quite get my head around. I'm having to go back and figure out, do the maths on how Barney got there, because what I've seen from him this year in terms of his form isn't what you would expect of someone who remains, for this moment in time at least, in a match play spot. But that's probably just consistently picking up £2,000, £2,500, getting to board finals. I would love it to get exciting. I really, really would. But my head says it's done.
So, tour card holders that are absent, not playing in the Pro Tour: Nathan Aspinall, Matt Campbell, Kordeka, Luke Humphreys, Luke Littler, Mensa Sulovic, Jules Van Dongen, Tim Walters, Michael Van Gerwen. They will all miss.
So everybody in that chasing pack is there. Everybody who is I mean, and let's be honest, like we could see something completely bananas go on. We could see William O'Connor win a Pro Tour event and go to the match play. We could. I just think of all the likeliest outcomes don't include that. There is a reason why the players that aren't ranked up there, and it's because they haven't been playing very well. But yeah, there are players there that could still do it.
So you're saying no change, those 16 remain those 16?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the case. Pretty sure. I don't know. I think the order might change a little bit within that. Perhaps because they're very tightly packed. But I think that's the 16. And I've said the 32 was a 32 for the last month, so I'm reluctant to change my mind now and argue with myself.
Could you imagine, though, if tomorrow the draw goes right or we get a rogue winner?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Then Wednesday becomes absolute carnage.
And that's, yeah, you will know tomorrow what Wednesday is going to look like, because if there's a few of them pick up a few grand.
Oh yeah, so if Michael tomorrow, Barney and Joyce or whatever have good runs, then barring them winning, it's done. I agree.
But if you get a rogue winner, if you get Martin Lukeman turning up and winning a Pro Tour tomorrow, William O'Connor turning up winning a Pro Tour, that just could happen. That could happen.
Oh, look, they've won before. It's not beyond the realms.
This is it. And also it can happen when a lot of the players you just listed aren't turning up to play. You're not going to run into a Luke Humphreys. You're not going to run into Luke Littler. You're not like there are opportunities, or there are going to be opportunities within that draw, because there's some bloody big names that aren't
in the world aren't there. That gives you hope. Is the thing. Someone said, do you think Gary will have a practice before the match play? The fact he's playing in both of these and Kiel is almost his practice. Do I think he may have? Do I think he'll have a day, maybe like a Wednesday? So he'll get home from the Euro Tour Monday. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a chuck on the Wednesday or the Thursday before heading to Blackpool on the Friday. So yeah, look, having these events before the World Match Play is great for Gary, because that's his practice. Going in, if he has two good runs here, a good run in Kiel, he'll feel he's set and ready to go. Gezi is at the Pro Tour, which again he'll be one of the favourites, no question, to go on and win. The Snakebiter's pulled out as well. Okay, that must have been whilst we were on air, Warren. But again, is Snakebite putting out a big thing anymore? I'm not sure it is. That yes, Peter's had a good game in him, but those consistency levels from Peter Wright have not been there. So I'm not sure that's a significant factor. But this could well be Peter Wright's last World Match Play.
Certainly could.
The draw is on Thursday. Don't know what time, but the draw is Thursday, and then it gets serious.
Yeah, well, that's when we know, isn't it? That's when we know who's going to play who. That's when we can start to plot out, and we do it every year. We do it for the World Championships. We can literally start to predict who do we think will beat who, and if they beat who do we get in that round? Who do we get on that round? And then we start to get excited about who we get to watch when, and who will we get to see on this day, and who will we get to see on the Monday, and it'll be I can't wait. I'm bloody excited.
Is Gezi now at the Pro? See, things are happening whilst
we're happening live. It's all happening. Refresh your list. Press refresh.
It won't. The problem is it won't be like live. Is the thing. Latest. I've not seen any. I can't see any. Mark, where have you seen that? Because I can't see it anywhere. But again, this is the thing, that until we see tomorrow the draws and so on, it's going to be interesting. But in Thursday lunchtime-ish, once that draw comes out, everything then becomes real. That you've got an opponent for round one in front of you. Now, if you are the seeds, if you're looking at the non-seeds, who are you wanting to avoid?
If I'm a seed,
yeah, out of the non-seeds, who are you looking to avoid?
Josh Rock, Jan van Veen. They're probably the big two. I think they are the most dangerous two. Beyond that, I suppose it depends which versions of Martin Schindler, Cam Menzies, and then the less predictable, probably Dirk and Wessel Nyman. But I think the two that I think will do or could do real damage to the seeds, depending on what that draw ends up looking like, is Josh Rock and Jan van Veen.
Right, 2 seconds, replying to a message. I'll tell you what's been said in a minute. First of all, in the chat room, Anthony is in from Austin, Texas, via the greatest city in the world, in New York. So good to spend some time in your company last week. And Gob is in. Hope you are good, my friend. Right, so this isn't an official post from the PDC. However, Gezzy's Facebook has shared Chippy 501's menu picks, and he's put, I'll be there myself for full breakfast on Wednesday.
Ah, well then.
So there we go. And
that tells you.
She's probably going to give me a slap for this now, but thank you to Mrs. Mason for sharing that with me, who are watching along in one of the greatest pubs we've ever been to. Prince of Wales. Big up.
Supposed to reveal your sources.
Long. So yeah, Gezzy's given the ghost away himself, that he's pulled out the Pro Tours and going for breakfast at the Chippy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, he'll have a queue at the Chippy now, won't he? People coming for selfies.
And to Stacey as well, Anthony. Absolutely. New York was superb. Look, God, lapping it up in the chat room. Good to have you.
Listen, he just.
Good to have you in, buddy, as always. So yeah, going back to what we were saying though.
He'll send you a signed photo if you inbox him.
There's a few in that non-seed list that we don't know what's going to turn up. Look, I'm pretty confident that, as you said, Rock and Van Veen will play to a very good level.
Yeah.
Now, the others, there's a few in there. Menzies is one. Wessel Nyman and Dirk van Dijvenbode are another two that have produced astronomical numbers on TV, but again, very inconsistent.
Lottery.
There's one, well, Mike De Decker as well, not really lived up to the billing since winning the World Grand Prix. But the one in there that no one is talking about, because, again, we just don't know what version of him is going to turn up. We kind of forget he's got to a major TV final before, is Ryan Searle. He could be a complete jack in the box here.
We talked a lot about, so I don't know how this happened. It was because when you were absent the other week and I was steering the ship, so to speak. We ended up doing a good 40 minutes of Ryan Searle chat.
Really?
And I don't know how we got there. And I don't know how I got us back off it. But the chat room was laughing it up. And we did, we did. We literally spoke at length discussing the merits of Ryan Searle and what he brings to the tour and what we think he can achieve. I still think that if he had have beaten Peter Wright in that Players' Championship final in Minehead, when he played so well all weekend to get to the final, I think we would have seen a very, very different last 3 years from Ryan Searle. I think he could have really kicked on from that. And because he didn't get over the line, I think he's been fighting for it ever since. And I don't think we've seen the best of him. But unfortunately, there are a lot of players that come and play on this tour who we don't see the best of, or we don't see the best of them at the right times, and we don't see the best of them. I think that there's still some very big question marks next to Ryan Searle about whether he can do it on the big stage. He can definitely play fucking darts as good as anybody. He and some of the what he produces on and what he has produced, certainly not as much this year as the last couple of years where he's produced it on your behind the cameras on a pro tour. He's definitely got the potential. I just think he's potentially going to fall victim of too many other talented players around him who've got a killer instinct. Oh yeah, for a bloke who can't see the board, he's exceptional. Yeah, he's like,
look,
we're not doing Paralympic darts, though, are we? He's going to have to play against lads who can see. No, I just think I think he's going to fall victim of there being too many ruthless players. I don't know if his killer instinct is what it needs to be successful.
I
at the
agree.
highest end of the game.
However, if he gets Chisnell, Peter Wright, Danny Knocker,
he can win a match.
But what I'm saying is, by winning one match, your whole confidence can turn on that stage by just winning one. And if he does it in style, if he goes and produces a ton plus average, plays really, really well, the confidence he can gain from that will be insane.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. I think he's good watch. He's a great, nice bloke. I just don't know if the ship's sailed yet for Ryan. I don't know whether the opportunity came to really get it done, and I just don't. I think he lacks the killer instinct, and sooner or later he will meet a player, whether it's round one, round two, that will have that killer instinct when it's needed in the game, and it'll be his downfall. I think, unfortunately for him.
I agree about and he says it himself that he thinks about darts differently than everyone else. That he openly says that I've been very shrewd and wise with my money. I'm comfortable. I'm not playing to make a fortune like some of these other guys are. So yeah, I agree. Sometimes that mentality might not just be there.
He lacks the eye of the tiger, so to speak.
Which version are we going for? Are we going for Katy Perry or the Survivor one?
Jesus Christ. Like, I need people like you around me to remind me that there were two. Like, I was running on the beach with Apollo Creed then, and you're on fucking Katy Perry. Oh, dear.
They've both been used as professional walk-ons. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, yes, only one of them ever should have. Whoever approved the other one needs to go and look in the mirror and reflect on their decisions.
Well, again, I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but there may be a walk-on change at the Winter Gardens for someone.
Well, let's be honest, Phil. There's a few that need to in there. Like there is a few that really need to get something a bit fresher and a bit less shit. So I definitely would welcome from a few of these guys I mean, ideally Dirk van Dijvenbode, so otherwise you'll find me stood outside when that's going on, because I'm not putting up with that. That's shite. So I'll just be stood out the back when he walks on. But yeah, there's definitely a few in here that I think could do with a freshen up. Definitely.
Marcus says, who do you think Chizzy can find? I think Chizzy's in a lot of danger at the moment. That since September last year, he has looked a shadow of the player that he was, even on the floor, where he was always ton plus averages on the Pro Tour and the Euro Tour, big performances. They're becoming few and far between, sadly, at the moment. That, yes, we all know he had issues winning games on TV. However, he's now having issues winning games on the floor, which he never had before.
Yeah, when we used to come into this time of year, into the match play, we're used to seeing, when you look at the year-to-date, there's not been a lot of big TV majors, and a lot of that year-to-date money it's Euro Tour and Pro Tour, where we are used to seeing Chizzy pick up good, consistent money. To see him ranked, mid-20s in the year-to-date, outside the top 10, clearly on the tour card race, at this time of year, I think is dangerous for Chizzy, because traditionally doesn't pick up those big lumps of money on television at the back end of the year, and he does a lot of that hard grind of maintaining
on the Pro Tour and the Euro Tour.
Yeah, that's where he does his hard work in terms of maintaining his position on the rankings, and he's not there at the minute. He's way off where we normally see him. I mean, you look at where he's qualified in previous years for the match play. And it's rare he comes in 11th, because he's normally had that front end of the year of picking up really solid, good runs, Euro Tours, Pro Tours, that just not there at the minute, I'm afraid, for Dave. And it's hard to see where it's going to come from.
I'm just looking, 2025, he's only earned 63 grand. And look, I'm looking, he blanked in 19, blanked in 17, blanked 2 Euro Tours in a row, blanked in ET6. Minimal in Players' Championships, blanked in Players' Championships. There's a lot of noughts and ones. UK Open, only 5. Masters, only 5. World Championship, only 15. There's a lot of low numbers for Dave Chisnell in those events, what are normally his bread and butter. Let's be fair. Coming into the match play, on the Players' Championships or the Euro Tour, there will be a 30 or a 15 because he'll have won one.
Yeah, this is it, and
he aren't there at the moment.
No, and when you look back, he is a serial winner of Pro Tour events, and when he's not winning them, he's regularly making semi-finals, finals, regularly picking up good lumps of money that are constantly topping up that ranking, and it's just not there at the minute. And there are players that aren't picking up Pro Tour money that are picking up less than Dave Chisnell is. But they turn it on the telly and they pick more money up, and they'll have a good run here and they'll have a good run there. Whereas Dave hasn't been clicking on TV either. And, sooner or later, it's going to get concerning, I think.
Well, I've just had a look. Euro Tour events, 2023, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 23. Multiple titles across the last 3 years. Pro Tours, 2019, 2024, 2024, 2023, 22, 22, 21. He's a serial winner in these events.
But on TV, all we've seen from him is in the last 3 years is 2 quarterfinals. That's it. In the last 3 years, we've seen a quarterfinal at the Worlds 2024 and a quarterfinal at the World Masters 2024. So even though that time that he's doing it, they're pretty close in time, chronologically very close together. He's had a sort of a good month and a half, really. But in the last 3 years, that's the only time we've seen a quarterfinal for him on the television. So when Dave's not doing the grind and earning the money on the Pro Tours, that's when it gets concerning, because he's not doing it on the telly either.
Yeah, and where's he dropped to? So yeah, he's provisionally world 15 as well at the moment, not at the Slam. He's at the World Grand Prix, at the European Championships, not at the Grand Slam Players in the World. So he's okay for TV tournaments, but he's getting awfully close to that 16. We've heard players say once you drop out of that top 16, it becomes incredibly tough to get back in there.
And there's some bloody big names about to do it, I think, as well, Phil, over the course of the next few months.
Well, if you look at it, on the tour card race, he's at 15. Players that are outside the 16 that are on the up, Van Veen, Aspinall, Price, Cross, you would expect them to add money to their tallies because they're too good players not to. Peter Wright, Michael Smith, Cameron Menzies, Daryl Gurney playing well, Dirk van Dijvenbode back playing well, Riccardo Pietrezco. There are players that are playing better than him, which you will expect to add money to those tallies.
Without a doubt.
So for Chizzy, it is a worrying time. And look, we all know it's sod's law that when you're not in particularly good form, things don't go your way. So then, come this match play draw, it will be sod's law that he draws Josh Rock or Van Veen.
Yeah, but then you think, well, if he draws a Barney or he draws, someone that's not at it as well, then you never know what a decent win in a room like that can do. So again, well, that's why the draw is so fascinating, isn't it? Once we see it and we can start to work out what everybody's got to do.
Yeah, look, someone asked what time the draw was. I don't know is the honest answer. I would expect it around lunchtime-ish. That window between 12 and 2, I would expect it to be there. Look, I don't know.
We're not seeing balls pulled out, are we?
I don't know. Last year, it was live from the Betfred studio on the Betfred channels. I would hope they do it again this year, but I don't know. So I would expect it around there. Scheduled Friday or Saturday, Damo. Yeah, they'll get the draw done and get that out, and then they'll work out the schedule. Look, let's be fair. There's going to be a couple of shit games that will be Sunday afternoon. You just know, don't you?
Yep.
Obviously, last year they had to work the fixtures around the football because England played on the Sunday, so yeah, that was a bit
not as challenging this year.
No, it's nice and simple this year. That it's like,
was it not Dave Chisnell that was playing the game before England last year?
It was, and he got battered by Ratajski.
He did. He made very quick work. I will be there, John. I will be. The online darts presence at the event will be big as usual, as it always is in Blackpool. So yeah, both Phil and I will be on media duties. We've
had the notifications back.
Yes,
the accreditation is done.
I am accredited to be in the media area.
So yeah, that will be good. But yeah, look, I can't wait. As you said, we are going to film another episode of Double Trouble with Mace on the Friday as well. So we'll get that done. I'll race back to my digs and get it edited and out there as always. And Dan will be joining me on the Saturday, which will be good.
I can't bloody wait.
Chili's getting smashed up in the VIP area. Good work, mate.
I'll see you there. I'll see you there, mate. I'll see you there. No, yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm hoping to have a catch up while I'm there for a few days with everybody, especially those who are in the chat room every week, and we sort of know you through this medium. Like, if you are there, please get in touch and I'll buy you a pint. Like, I'll see you in person, which would be quite nice to see a few people. I need all sorts I need to organise things. I need someone to recommend. I need a decent gym that I can get to for a week. Ideally, without signing up to a 12-month contract, that would be ideal.
There's a decent gym at the Village Hotel.
Is there?
Yeah.
Can I just pay them to use it for a week, or when I'm digging somewhere else?
We've got you covered. It's fine.
Good. That's all right then.
Because all I'm saying is I use the swimming facilities and the squash facilities as well.
Well done. Yeah, well played. Well done. In fact, I think so. I stay in them a lot for work, and I'm sure we've got some sort of corporate thing where I can use their facility. I use their office. They've got like little workspaces in the front offices, haven't they? I use them quite a bit. Yeah, so it's gonna be good fun. I'm really excited about it. There
you go. He said it now, but
she lifts bigger dumbbells than me as well.
No,
I'm gonna have to get right at it if he's in there.
No, honestly, the gym facilities at the village are really, really good.
Yeah, I use the one in Bury a lot for work, and so I'm quite familiar with. In fact, I stayed in that one last year. Actually, I stayed in that intending to use the gym. No, not last year. Whilst I wasn't on official duties last year, I was very much indulging in the festivities, let's say, that Blackpool has to offer, and was in no fit state. Use a sauna, that was well used, but didn't see a dumbbell.
Danger says, who are we betting on to win the match play? Look, next week will be our official
proper
preview of the Royal Match Play. Once we see who's in what half of the draw. At the moment, it's hard to look who's value until we know who falls into what section of each draw, and so on. But it'll be interesting. I want to talk about darts, as in Rob Cross has been threatening to throw with new darts. We've seen other players have new darts in their case, and they've not pulled the trigger on them yet. I thought we'd see them either in the States or Poland. Again, the fact that players are tinkering with new equipment this close to the match play, is that a good or a bad thing? Or is that putting doubt in their head about the equipment and so on?
Yeah, I think there are players that when things aren't going their way will look outward instead of inward, and instead of looking, inwards at themselves as to why things aren't going well, they'll look out into their dart case and think it's these three bastards here. This is what's going wrong. I think it's, let's be honest, there's lots of reasons why people change equipment, and some of it's commercial, some of it's like that they really fall out with what they're using. I think a lot of it, though, at the very highest level of the game, is it's not extreme changes, is it? It's very slight changes, especially players that are in long-term deals with manufacturers. That they are only doing something a bit. So it's rare that we see something completely different. I think it's different for somebody like a Rob Cross, who, Rob throws new darts. He takes them out the packet and he throws them. He's not one of these that has a set of darts. Like the amount of pubs that I've gone in that have a Rob Cross set of darts behind the bar because he, chucked a set and left them there. Whereas I think obviously there are other players that play with the same set of 3 darts, and they've thrown those 3 darts forever. And if those 3 darts were missing, they wouldn't know what to do and how to cope. I don't know. Again, timing's unusual. I would suggest that now is probably not the time to start throwing new darts, unless you've been throwing them a shitload elsewhere at home. Because if you've been throwing a set for 2 months and just haven't shown anybody it, then maybe the Pro Tour might be good to get your final, yes, they're okay to come to Blackpool with me. If you've been transitioning for some time, I wouldn't suggest that opening new boxes this week to try and have a go and see if we can find an extra 5 points in the average is a particularly sensible approach. But I am also a man, as you know, that every time I have a bad game, I order a new set of darts off the internet, because clearly that's the fucking answer, isn't it? That's what was wrong. That's why I lack in talent. It's just my ability to choose the right darts. That's actually what I'm not very good at. It's not the game. I do think we will. I think where we'll see more and more equipment changes more rapidly is clearly people are working very, very fast to develop new back ends of darts. We've seen the molded setups come in. We've then seen reiterations and reimaginations of those molded setups where they've got a twist in them, where they've got different features in them, some up with a wobble, stuff with a spring in, stuff with an extra gram of weight here and there, and that's where I think we'll see the most development. And I don't think it's going to stop, because as more, every sport in the world, right, when it grows and it keeps getting bigger, there's always someone who wants to make a pound note out of it. There's always someone selling the next thing that will be the answer to your problems. Like there's all, and the next training kit and the next style of board, and this will all keep, as darts gets bigger, more and more people will try and innovate, and a lot of it will be short-term silly things that a lot of us will look at and say, oh, stupid, but loads of people will get drawn into trying that style out. The thing with darts is they're interesting. You can't do an awful lot with them. They still need a pointy end. They still need to be a particular shape. Like you can't you can only innovate darts to a point, and then you run out of things you can do with them, because there's only a finite amount. But I also think that over time, as we get more young players coming through, like Luke Littler, we will see less fear of change and trying something new. I also think we will see people with more commercial opportunities, and I think that we'll start to see more sets of darts coming out in the run-up to Christmas, which I won't be happy about. I keep having to fucking buy them for children. But it's going to keep happening, isn't it? We're going to get all sorts.
Well, in terms of, like you say, more commercial viabilities and so on, I'm convinced it won't be too long till we see sponsorship logos and deals on flights etched onto a barrel. We've seen the players' logos being able to etched onto a barrel as well. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to get a sponsor logo on a barrel and so on.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like usually, Formula One at the weekend.
Oh,
like if there's a fucking hole anywhere, like they're sticking a sticker on it, a badge, a name, anything. And also, what we have also seen as well is darts is still in a place where we are not yet picky about who we take our money from as to if it erodes our brand. Like, so if you want to sponsor tennis or golf or Formula One is a good example. Like, whilst these sports are absolutely covered in sponsorships, they are quite strategic in who they choose to partner with. They choose to partner with high-end watches, and they choose to have brands that will elevate the feeling of class that you get from watching these sports and engaging with it, and being in their VIP areas and all the other things that you can do. You see all this nice branding. We're in darts, we're still going with ladders. And I get that there's a bit of a cross between a ladder and a ranking order of, yeah, I like, yeah, okay. But like, and that's my worry with darts, is that when you start to get things onto flights and barrels and things like that, we then end up, I think, we open the potential for some rather silly sponsorships.
Well, touching on that, we now have an official PDC, official ladder partner in Werner returning. I'm not quite sure that darts needs an official ladder partner, but it's a good selling point. I'll give you that. And now the Werner ranking ladder as the order of merit shall now be known as.
Not in our house, it's not. In our house, it's just the order of merit, innit? Fucking Werner ladder. Yeah, great. Like, good on him. The extra few quid in the pocket, innit? But yeah, it tells me that we haven't yet reached the point where we've made enough money to be picky about who we take it from. Like, we'll still, in terms of whether or not it erodes our brand image. So yeah, I get it. It's a ladder, but is it necessary? Do we have to really bother? It's the commentators I feel sorry for. if we're going to have to make the commentators continually refer to it every time they talk about someone moving up and down the rankings, do you know what will happen there? They'll just stop talking about people going up and down the rankings because they won't be asked to constantly have to remember to reference the bloody official ladder partner. I wonder if all the lads who are setting up, I'll check those ladders when I get to the Matchplay to see if they're using the official ladders or if they're just using the ones they already had. Buy new.
Mind you, though, that health and safety picture wasn't good when you had 2 players on the same run.
Oh, mate. I've got my working at 8 certificate down in a cabinet down here somewhere, and there's a few issues that I can raise from the ladder sponsorship. Yeah, it's just funny, innit? A bit. The official ladder partner. Yeah. To be honest with you, if you'd have given me all of the different official partners that we would have ended up with by the end of the year, I would not have called an official ladder partner at the beginning of the season.
No, 100%. It was yeah, but look.
So Anthony made a point there. I know you flashed it on the screen. There was a video that I will send you, Phil, because one of the best things I have ever seen, and I'm certain it was NASCAR that they did it, was there's a guy that goes out at the beginning and says some prayers and prays before like the race goes off, and mentioned all the sponsors mid-prayer. Like, we had to thank God for the Pirelli tyres, and we had to thank God for the official ladder partner. I'll send you the video. It's superb.
I've lost my train of thought now, but no, look, it's a good thing though that people want to invest in darts. That's the good thing. It just needs to be branded a little bit better than the ladder rankings. Is the thing. But speaking of F1 cars in darts, obviously soft tip darts aren't governed by the same rules as the PDC. And anyone that has ever seen Mikuru Suzuki...
I thought you were going to say you can use any ladder you want. You can use a step ladder. You can use whatever however you need to get up there. You can use whatever ladder you need.
All ladders go in soft tip ladder. All ladders go. What was that? But Mikuru Suzuki's soft tip shirt, you have seen nothing like it. Honestly, it's just got reams of logos down the front and down the back. It is.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. This is where I don't have. So I have no problem whatsoever with players. So again, for me, you know, like this thing about how many sponsors that people can have and things like that. Like, I'd let players go and earn whatever money they can earn. And if they've got a mate who's got a fish and chip shop, who'll give them a few quid to stick fish and chip shop logo on, I'd let the players have whatever sponsors they want. I just think, when you are running a multi-billion pound company, you should look a bit more corporate with your corporate partners.
Ladder match.
Well, that's the WWE have never had an official ladder partner, have they? They're ladders.
I want to see at the Morningside Arena in Leicester, Chizzy on stair number 4 against Josh Rock, who's gone been brave and gone to stair number 5 to throw.
If we get an official chair sponsor, an official table partner, we can have a TLC count. We can have tables, ladders, and chairs. We just need to get the other ones.
That's hilarious. A week in darts. Oh, congratulations to Andreas Harrison, who has booked his debut at Alexandra Palace. Nice and early. Dirty Harry will be going to the Palace, which is a great opportunity.
Good addition as well. He's a good addition as well, because we know the level that he can play at, and he can upset somebody. Like, he can turn up and win a darts match. Like, yes, it's great to have lots of extra qualifiers at the Worlds.
And on the Euro Tour produce 100+ averages.
Well, it's great to have more players from around the world and extra players there. Like, it's lovely, but having a player of his quality who can turn up and beat someone is even more exciting. Like, it's even more fun to get somebody like him in there is really cool.
Yeah, and look, this is what we want. It's everyone that says, look, it's wrong that all these players, all these positions go elsewhere. not when it's done properly like this, because Dirty Harry, I still to this day struggle how he hasn't won a tour card at some point.
No, it doesn't.
He has the levels to go and do very dangerous things.
And he's only going to turn it on for, it's one game at a time, isn't it? If he can come up and turn play well, and he can beat big names. Like, he's that good. He's that talented on his day. Really good addition to it, I think. I'm really pleased to see him in there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Super Series, Jimmy Van Schicke, again, booked his place at Champions League again. Another player that should be on tour, in my opinion, and will be a huge danger.
And will be at one point as well. You do it's when, not if, innit, I think, with Jimmy.
I would like to think so, yeah. I'd be amazed if we never saw him on tour.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think certainly over the next year or two, I think he's got a really good chance of getting there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That I think he's so good.
He'll be on the Ferner ladder sooner or later.
He won't need a ladder, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was going to say. He's the only lad on the cat tour that won't. He can just stand next to it, elbow on top rung, can he?
Yeah. In terms of the World Series as well, we're still waiting for the final two names. Who's going to Australia and New Zealand? We know there's a lot of players that have declined the opportunity to play due to holidays and so on, being in the middle of.
Do you think that do you think somebody could play their way into an invite there with a big performance at the match play, especially with some of the bigger names not being available? If someone a little bit marketable runs through to a semi-final, do you think do you think there's opportunities there?
Quite possibly, yes. But again, I know we've got friends in from Australia and so on. The only question is, and I don't know the answer, that's why I'm asking it. How long does it take to get your visa to play darts in Australia? Would that have to have been done already?
You get a sports visa, wouldn't you? Rather than a working visa.
I just don't know how long that would take.
For most civilized countries of the world, a sports visa can normally be done very quickly. Because if you, for example, play tennis, for example, and you qualify for a tournament that's in Abu Dhabi, Australia, Wimbledon, whatever. If you qualify for that tournament, the gap between qualifying, same with things like, when you have draws for, sporting events and things like that. So generally sports visas can happen very quickly, primarily because the biggest worry that every country has when they issue a visa is that the person they issue the visa and won't fuck off after the fight. That is the worry. Like the primary worry is we give someone a visa and they don't fuck off. They just stay there. Whereas if you've got a sports person flying into a country to play sports on the television, it's very hard for them to go missing and for them to disappear into your system and start claiming benefits because they're on the bloody telly. And they're like, you're not gonna not be able to find them. So normally a sports visa will solve that issue. Yeah,
that's why I say I didn't know if it was a long process, then the likelihood is they've already been done. But a lot of people are saying now that I think Josh Rock would be a prime candidate to go and have a 2 World Series.
Agreed. I think that, we're most people who know about darts are relatively comfortable in predicting him being a regular on those events in years to come. So why not give him the experience, give him the opportunity, especially if some of the big boys have turned down the opportunity to go and earn a few quid. Why not give it to somebody like him?
Yeah, I don't dislike that.
World Cup winner.
Correct. The only caveat to that is, and it wouldn't just be off this, but if you pick one half of the World Cup winning pair and not the other, does that look right?
Yeah, it's fine. They're ranked miles different. And he's got that shit walk on as well, which on the walk on alone, I wouldn't have him. Sweet Caroline wants deleting from society.
No, I'm with you 100%.
That song's on my hit list for songs that I don't want to hear when I'm in Blackpool, I'm afraid, Daryl. I won't be rooting from you, so I don't have to keep listening to that shit.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the World Series down under. Ben Robb qualified for one in New Zealand, which is great. Massively rate Big Rig as a player. And again, one of those players that when we talk about the Asian players not being able to, North Americans having their issues with the travel expenses, Australians, I put Ben Robb in that category as well. That is he good enough to be on tour? In my opinion, 100%. But it's having he's obviously got a young family back home and so on. It's that risk, that gamble that they can't take.
Correct.
It is the thing. Right, we'll open up question time. We've got a couple of bits just to go through, but get your questions in now as well. But as we say, coming up with the match play, we are streaming tomorrow and Wednesday. Then we'll be back Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the European tour. Will be good. Then we've got Devon Peterson coming into the studio here on the 17th, filming with Chris in Blackpool on the Friday for episode 2 of Double Trouble. And then we are into the nuts of the match play. So there is plenty coming your way on our channel. So if you
We're having a live lounge off Monday of the match play, so we won't be here on this stream.
No, but we will have the Fallout bar to replace that with all the action. We need to sort out who's doing it, but we will have the Fallout bar returning as well, which is cool. So yeah, plenty coming up. So my point was, if you haven't yet, tap that subscribe button and make sure you drop us a like on all platforms, because we have you covered for the entirety of the Betfred World Match Play. Yeah, and Dan's going to obviously meet some of you guys in Blackpool as well.
Yeah, we're going to have a couple of beers and a bit of a chat. And
yeah, thoughts on Jason Francis saying he might take the PDC to court over the? Look, he's doing it in snooker.
I was going to say, this isn't new news from him, is it? Like he's already doing this elsewhere on another.
He's doing it Snooker Legends against World Snooker, for the same kind of thing, that he wants Ronnie available to play in some televised exhibitions and so on. And look, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say one way or the other that it's going to be a good thing or it's definitely going to happen. But my guess is that a lawyer wouldn't take it on for him and push it if they didn't think they had any chance of winning.
I suppose it depends how much he's paying them, doesn't it? There's obviously something in there, because people don't risk lots of money going through complex legal proceedings if they don't think they've got a chance at a positive outcome. So he's obviously seen something, certainly in snooker, in that contract that he thinks either shouldn't be there or is contestable or isn't aligned with other regulations, and he thinks he's got a chance of overturning part of it. And I don't think, from what I understand, there's too much difference between the snooker contracts and the darts contracts. What may be the case is that if he's successful with the snooker one, the darts one might not even need to go to court because he just sets some precedent on it. And you'd have a legal precedent to draw against. If you might not need to do darts as well as snooker. If the contracts are that similar, then a successful result in snooker could provide a successful result in darts legally.
Yeah, 100%. And like we say,
and it's a bit cheaper than fighting two battles when really you only need to fight one because it's the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think. Look, I'm not an expert, but there must be something in there for them to be able to do, or for them to be even doing it. Gob cameo appearance on the Fallout bar, quite possibly.
Might have to be, because the rest of us are in bloody Blackpool.
What does TBC for position 128 in the World Championship mean? So
it means there's a reserve. There's a spot reserved for rule number 1 to be applied.
But basically, to be confirmed. So there is obviously a spot or a way they are looking at that had maybe the final details haven't been confirmed as of yet. But look, My gut reaction is that TBC will be one of the places on the secondary and supplementary tours. It's just which one it's going to. So I don't know. Is the honest answer that? But they'll announce it soon, because we normally get all the ticket information and so on around Blackpool time for the Worlds. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the same sort of time. How far do you think Bunting will go in the match play? Ooh, what do you reckon?
Depends on who he draws. Could go one round. Could go all the way. I think he'll do all right. I don't think he'll win. I think he'll have a nice run, but I don't think he'll win. I don't think he'll make a final, but I think he'll have a nice run. Quarterfinals, maybe.
Yeah, I think he'll go. I think he'll go well. I don't think he'll win it. I agree. So yeah, I think I could see him getting to a quarterfinal or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's most likely. I think if he goes beyond it, he's exceeded expectations. If he goes before the quarters, he'll have underwhelmed. So I think quarters is about fair for a without seeing a draw. You might look at the draw and say he'll piss his way through to a semi-final here.
Yeah. How much better do you think some of these lads from around the world would improve their darts if they were playing on the main tour? I believe that. I'm with you. I think, my opinion, that certainly
lots and lots.
Like we talk about the North Americans, the players on the Asian tour, the lads in Oceania as well. If they were playing at a higher level week in, week out, I certainly think they are good enough to compete with the best.
Yeah. And again, and I think the difference is that one of the key differences is just that lack of high level competition. We talked about it with Raymond when he came on as a guest a couple of weeks ago. It's that lack of really high level competition consistently being pushed. That's what I think is missing. Iron sharpens iron, and I think that's what the environment those lads need to be in if they are to reach their full potential. Yeah,
and it's just that needing to play week in, week out against the very best in the world. Will Denny Adokata win a match and get himself? I'd be amazed if he didn't win a match at some point. Do I think he gets himself off the bottom? I don't know if he wins enough of them for that.
Yeah. I think it's, yeah, he might win one. Mind you, if you win a match, you don't pick any money up, do you?
No.
He could win a load of matches and still not lift himself anywhere near, because you can win a match and go on with fuck all still.
Yeah, 100%. Would love the sport to go to Africa. Yeah, I agree. Paul, I think there may be changes in that coming up. I don't know that, but my gut says there may be because of everything else that's gone on in the world.
Yeah, I think the main difference in terms of drawing a comparative across with the contracts is that, and it's only my loose understanding, is that the snooker contracts and the darts contracts that they're specifically challenging, like the phrasing in that contract is that it's the same. The contract phrasing is the same. Yeah. So if you were to say that phrase of that contract isn't valid, then you could draw an inference that, well, it's exactly the same because it's the same contract terms and conditions. Whereas obviously there's different policies and different, it's not the same contract, if you like, that they're comparing in that.
Yes. Good one. Where do you see the channel in 5 years' time? Hopefully continuing to make good content for all you people.
Still, it will be good.
Yeah. Still making good content for all you guys would be top of the list. Look, I think we've come an awful long way in 5 years from where we were when we first started to where we are now. I think it's come a very long way. So I'd like to continue that trend and trajectory.
Yeah, and it's difficult. It's different, isn't it? Because 5 years is a long time, and I'm on this channel all the time, and I still don't understand a lot of the stuff we're doing. Like, I know that we're currently live on Twitch and Kick, and I don't know what these things are. So for me to predict what we could be doing in a few years' time, when I don't really fully understand what we're doing now, it's probably challenging.
Yeah,
we don't know what mediums will exist for content. It could be on a VR headset. That's one thing we should. I will not have more hair like this. That battle is. I lost that battle in my mid-20s. That's long gone. Yeah, I might be all.
We'll not be to Turkey.
Yeah, no, it's not for me. That I've never been that fussed about it. You don't know. You could be putting VR headsets on, and you could just be like sat in here with me. Like you could be as if you're sat next to us in a VR headset. Who knows what the technology will be doing?
100%. But we'll continue to make good content for all you guys and things like that. Is definitely the key in the plan.
Best. We're going to try and innovate a bit in Blackpool. We'll have some time where we're both together, and we'll have some equipment with us. You might see all sorts of strange and unusual content while we're.
And Dan will have access to all the socials. So him not knowing what TikTok and Instagram are, this could be one of two ways. This could be genius or.
This is it. Like I still like my phone. If I could have a Nokia 3210, I'd have one of them tomorrow. If my employer would accept that as a way of me communicating. So yeah, me with access to all of that lot, you could get all sorts of strange content. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, 100%. Look, you guys have been absolutely incredible this evening. We're into Fergie time as it is, so we've gone over without even realising.
Will not be happy. I'll be in the bad books tonight.
But everyone, thank you very much indeed. Remember, this will be available as an audio only in the morning for all good podcast providers, so you can listen while you're at the gym, walking the dog, or whatever. Like we say, we are back tomorrow, 1 p.m. for the Pro Tour streams. Make sure you join us for action from all over the boards on the Pro Tour as the race for the Winter Gardens really hots up. But I've been Phil Bars, Dan Simpson. We've been on 9 Darts. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you are there.